Hi, Piano Annie here, and today's video is for people who have never sat down to play at a keyboard. I'm going to review the names of the notes and how the keyboard is set up, and I'll also even give you some numbers for the notes that will be important in our blues and boogie-woogie playing. So if you are familiar with the keyboard, you might want to skip to the next video. All right, so the keyboard consists of white notes and black notes. And it's just really 12 notes, here they all are, that repeat in what we call octaves, going up and down the piano 7 times. There's 7 octaves and a little bit extra on your, if you have an entire keyboard. Some of you might have a smaller keyboard that you're working on that might just have 5 octaves. The white notes each have a letter name, and then the black notes are named in relation to the white notes, depending on if you're going up half a step or down half a step. And one way to get around the keyboard is to notice that the black keys are in groups of 2 and in groups of 3. 2 and 3, 3 and 2, all the way up and down, repeating. So the notes that we will be working with, we'll start with C, because most of our stuff will be in the key of C. So we have C, and then D, E, F, G, A, B, and then we're back to C. All right, so if you go up the piano this way, okay, towards the higher sounding notes, if you go up a half step, that's considered a sharp. So if this is C, then C sharp would be a half a step up this way. Now if you were on D, then you would go down half a step to get what we call a flat. So this is D, this is now D flat. So this key has 2 names. It can be C sharp or it can be D flat. Now here's a silly little trick that I use to teach the names of the notes. It's a little story. So if you think of C for cat, here's our cat, and then the cat goes into this, which is the doghouse. And here's the dog, D for dog. So the dog, D, is inside his doghouse. Here's the cat. He goes in, sees the dog. He decides he doesn't like that, so he leaves through the exit, which begins with E. So C, D, and E. Then he goes to the front of the barn. So this is our barn, the little group of 3 black notes. So we have doghouse and barn, and we're on this strange property that is filled with doghouses and barns. All right, so now the cat is at the front, F for front, of the barn. And he goes inside the barn, and there's a goat, G for goat. And the goat's eating an apple, A for apple. And then he goes out the back door of the barn, B for back. And then we're at another C. It's another cat or the same cat, and he's wandering through all the dog houses. How about that? So cat, dog, exit, front, goat, apple, back, and then the cat, okay? And then, on the black keys, you've got, as I said, this could be C sharp or D flat. This one could be D sharp, or if we go to the E, this would be E flat. If we go here, this one would be F sharp, or it's also known as, if you look at it in relation to the G, it would be G flat. This would be G sharp or A flat. And the next one would be A sharp or B flat. The ones that we'll use a lot will be the B flat and the E flat. Okay, you don't actually have to know the names of all the notes to follow through on my videos and learn the blues. But if you wanted to know what they are, now you know, and that same pattern just repeats up and down the piano. By the way, back on the flats and sharps, let's say you wanted to find the sharp of E. Well, you would just go up a half step. So a half step is just whatever the very next key is. If you go up the piano, the very next key is another white key. So if I told you to find E sharp, it would actually be this one, which is F. Okay? And then F flat would be E. That same situation happens right here. Or let's go up here to this one. Same sets of notes. So here you have your B, which is the back of the barn. And if I told you to find a B sharp, it would be this white key, which we call C, but it's also known as B sharp. And if I were on the C and I told you to find C flat, then it would be the B. So that's just a little aside. I didn't want you to be confused about these gaps where there is no black key. But it's the black keys and their little pattern of 2, 3, 2, 3 that will help you learn to see the keyboard as individual notes and find any note that you want to get your fingers on. Okay, so what about numbers? I promised you that there would be numbers. Well, we're going to call C number 1. Okay, so for our purposes, C will usually be the one note. And then it goes very simply 1, 2, 3, 4. Pay attention to 4. That will be an important one going forward. So 1 and 4. After 4 comes 5, which is the G. That's also another important one. So 1, 4, and 5. We're going to use those a lot in the left hand when we go through that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then 6 and 7. That's it. Then you're back to the 1, which is C, which you could alternatively call 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8 or 1. All right, so that is the key of C. That's how the keyboard is laid out, and that was all I wanted to cover in this lesson. We are going to work with some of those notes down here in the very next video. So now that you know how the keyboard works, challenge yourself to start finding the C's. Say, I'm going to find every C on the keyboard, and then I'm going to find every F, and just go around and find every F with each hand as quickly as you can. And then say, oh, I'm going to find the 6th key in the key of C. So the key of C, but I'm going to find the 6th note, the number 6, the A. That's the apple who's inside the barn. So then you go and you find every A as quickly as you can. You might even want to hit 2 at a time. That's called hitting an octave. See? That's an A octave. Here's a G octave. And then you might challenge yourself to find an E flat. Well, here's an E flat because here's the E, the exit to the doghouse. There's an E flat. An E flat octave. All right? You could have somebody else shout out the names of the notes and then you find them. So once you've mastered that, move on to the next video. All right, I'll see you next time.